everybody wants to feel like they've done something, get their heart rate super high and be in a pool of sweat. But when you're actually trying to train your gas tank, which is going to be the zone 2, you need to go slow. Easy does it, Ben. Jeez, I know you're trying to show off here, but we're trying to have a conversation.
Just stopping the eccentric and then violent.
Here's a nice scene for this, straight out of the Dateline episode right here.
Oh, 100%.
Completely
isolated.
Abandoned parking lot.
Oh, so when I was checking out the trail earlier, snakes are, like, I can do spiders, hate snakes. With all this tall grass right there, heard a rustling, just jumped all by myself.
This is your episode to shine, my friend, especially because it's the conditioning side of the house, so.
Oh, 100%. I thought about that earlier when we decided what we were doing. I'm like, all right, well, I don't have to compare to Jimmy on a deadlift today. Like, this is my area. So, get a nice little zone 2 work in.
Honestly, so obviously not in the military, strength and conditioning coach, but when I made my journey of going from 20 some odd % body fat down to what I'm at now, I literally rucked or weighted vest walked 3 days a week, and I had basically just tried to accumulate 150 minutes a week of zone 2 cardio, which was all, like I said, either rucking or weighted vest walks, and that's it.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this before, like utilizing the bike as people are getting in shape. Yeah. I think rucking is the exact same way we look at it, because unless you're starting to run with it and just pounding your joints into the concrete, because realistically, how many people can go out, what percentage of people can truly run in zone 2 for 30 to 45 minutes? Like, you can have the discipline.
Yeah, you can, it just gets monotonous.
Right.
And if you're not training for anything specific, like a PT test or something, So like, I try to tell people, the average person who is just doing conditioning for overall health, body fat, and just raising their gas tank is like, make it so you want to show up every week and you're going to be more compliant to it. So it doesn't have to be a run. Like, even if we program on Warfighter a zone 2 session, it could be bike, stair stepper, a ruck, anything like that. And I know you don't really ruck, but
yeah, well, I mean, that's more so just off of my individual goals with races and everything. You know, we talk about all the time with, you know, training the skill that you need. Yeah. Well, running's the skill that I need, but like, if I was looking back in my time of getting into, you know, what I think is good aerobic shape, to the point a second ago, there was a time where I couldn't run in zone 2 for, like, truly run in zone 2 for 30 minutes. So utilizing the bike, utilizing rucking to get the actual stimulus that I need, because it doesn't do anything when we look at getting the adaptation. If I go out and run and my heart rate's 160, 170 every single time, like, I'm missing the mark with it.
Yeah, and you're also burning carbohydrates once you cross over as well, as opposed to burning fat for your fuel source. So everybody wants to feel like they've done something, get their heart rate super high and be in a pool of sweat. But when you're actually trying to train your gas tank, which is going to be the zone 2, you need to go slow. And I think that's like a big mistake a lot of people make. And then you add the layer of, all right, easy does it, Ben. Jeez, I know you're trying to show off here, but we're trying to have a conversation. Jeez. But yeah, so I think that's an important thing to note, is like not getting, like, fighting the urge to just send it when it's meant to be a recovery run.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you've probably talked about it before. One of the things I've heard that I absolutely love when it comes to the aerobic side of it, and you start looking at your week, easy, easy, hard, hard. So let your easy sessions truly be easy, because if I have what's programmed as an easy session, but I make it hard, now I'm starting to bleed fatigue into my sessions that need to be hard. And so if I'm going in fatigued there, now maybe I'm not able to hit the paces I need to.
Yeah.
But when we look at hard, now if I go slightly too hard there, I can make up for that in an easy effort session because I could look at slowing my pace down, getting on the bike. Yeah. So thinking easy, hard, I think is a very simple concept for people to remember. But it takes discipline, just like anything we talk about. Yeah. You know, what is it you always say? Of just like doing the right thing over and over is like simple but not
simple,
easy.
not easy.
Yeah,
simple, not easy.
It's the exact same thing. It's like very simple concept, but it's not always easy for people to follow. One of the things I absolutely do love, if you do struggle with the discipline aspect of it, if we look at running, because you get it a lot of times with competitive individuals when we look at easy sessions. Hey, keep it easy. Go run with the slowest person in your group. Yeah. Run with them, slow it down, so that way we can actually get the adaptations that we need with it.
Yeah. And then just on the rucking side of the house, just for the average person, just, hey, I'm trying to get in shape for hunting season. I'm gonna have, that's what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing my backpack that I hunt with. And I tell people, start with like 10% of your body weight. Yep. You can build up to 20% of your body weight. And that's typically the guideline, especially if you're new to rucking. I know if you're in the military, you don't have that luxury, obviously, but not talking that side of the house, just talking rucking for zone 2 enjoyment, not trying to run with a ruck. So that's an important thing to note is like, if you've never rucked before, where's a good starting point weight-wise? 10% of your body weight.
Well, yeah, that's what we did with mine today. I haven't been rucking with all the running. We put 25, so just slightly over.
Yep, exactly.
And again, like, we look at it, if I were to just go load up a bunch of weight just to do it, am I gonna get hurt off one session? No.
What, if you loaded your...
Like, if we were just say, like, we loaded up with 80 pounds.
Probably. Yeah, probably, depending on the person.
Yeah, depending on the person, but I'm putting myself at an unnecessary risk at that point.
Yeah.
Especially when I have other goals that I need to hit.
Yeah.
So like, why risk it at that point? It's just the same as any other progression. You know, I believe we talked about it in our foundations video a couple weeks ago when we were looking at the depth drops. We're not jumping up to 42 inches week 1. You know, we're recommending, you know, about bench height, and then you progress up with that. Same thing with the ruck.
It's just, I think just keeping it as simple as possible. And like, I don't do a lot of things that are textbook, meaning I know I'm supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. I don't get 8 hours of sleep. I have a wife, kids, full-time jobs, the whole bit. I don't eat my meals at the same time. I sometimes can't get my full meal prep in. There's like, I don't work out at the same time every day like everybody preaches, but the only thing I do really well is I show up every single day and every single week. And that's really half the battle. Is like, I think too much stuff nowadays is you got to be perfect with everything. Training and life happens in this bubble. Well, we all know that's not realistic. If you have wife, kids, family, even if you don't, you have a job, all those things are time suck from you. And where does your strength training fall on that priority list? It's definitely top 5 for me, but it's not going to take precedent over my family. So it's just about showing up and just keeping things consistent and repeatable over and over again. Yeah, so, and it's the same thing with conditioning. Like, you don't have to have, all right, if I'm starting off at a 20-pound ruck, you don't have to increase every single week. Like, you can stay at 20 pounds and increase your volume a little bit. So go from a 30-minute ruck to a 35-minute ruck, like small increases over time, as opposed to, I'm gonna go, I haven't rucked or I haven't run in however long, I'm gonna go send it and go on an hour-long run, and I'm just off the couch. Like, just doing things that make sense and allow you to just stack weeks, stack days, weeks, and years, because that's the end game.
Yeah, because you look at individuals who are phenomenal with the aerobic side of the house, they didn't just up and start doing it.
No.
It's years and years of consistent training with it. But to the point there, when we talk about like going out and sending it, I think a lot of times people try to progress too quickly in these workouts and think, oh, I always have to do more.
Yeah.
So you can do those small, like recommended small progressions. But another way you can look at it, especially on some of these harder sessions,
Yeah.
is doing that prescribed volume and intensity until it now feels easy.
Yeah.
So if it's a threshold session, I don't necessarily have to progress it every single time, especially if I didn't hit the intent the week before, why would I then go progress it? Like,
Yeah.
keep that same intensity, same volume until now it's a session that I can comfortably complete, and then it's time to progress it. It was, it's in the Jack Daniels running formula book, where he talks about that, and I think it's something that a lot of people would truly benefit staying closer to that mark than thinking of like, and I'm guilty of it. I did it when I was younger.
Yeah.
And like, there's still some times in my head where I'm like, I could go slightly faster, but having the discipline to not try and reach for it.
Yeah. And again, that just takes training maturity. And there's, if you're getting ready for something, I get it. Like, in order to run fast, you need to run fast.
Yeah.
But ideally, if you're getting ready for whatever, an event, the further out you have, the more time you can do a slow build, as opposed to, oh man, I only have 4 weeks. I got to do a massive ramp up. And I get it with this population, like tactical professionals, like they don't always get a lead time. So I understand that, but that just goes back to always being at a constant state of readiness, of not neglecting your conditioning, not neglecting your strength, not putting all your eggs into one basket. So when something does pop off and you have to get ready, that's okay. You're already maintaining a good foundation of mileage. So whatever that thing
Dial
is.
it in a little bit specifically.
Correct.
It's not that you're having to do a whole new build phase because you ran or rucked 0 miles for 6 weeks.
Correct. And it doesn't even have to be like, a lot of people, I know rucking is a lot of times gets individualized with people, and some people like rucking once a week, some people twice a month, some people once a month, and that's fine, but still follow the principles of not ramping up or adding too much intensity and too much volume when you can control it. And I think that's big for a lot of people.
What do you think the sweet spot is for tactical professional? So let's say if they were gearing up for some sort of assessment where they're obviously going to have a ruck on their back during the assessment, what do you think the sweet spot per week is?
What's that?
With throwing a ruck on in their training?
Again,
obviously, like you can look at
is Narnia, obviously,
yeah.
Narnia land. But depending on what it is, depending on how heavy it is, you at least gotta get it on usually like once a week. But again, it's where conversations happen with the individual. What's the guy's experience level with rucking? Do they ever have if they don't ever have an issue, they're taller, they can just walk at a normal pace, as opposed to a shorter guy who has to trot it out and things like that. So it's very much individual.
Correct.
But at least, depending, again, Narnia land, at least once a week. And then sometimes there could be merit to maybe a twice a week. One is shorter and maybe heavier, one is longer and lighter. So it really just depends on what that event is.
Yeah, so. And I think it's important too to, when we look at, same with running, like it's very hard to program perfectly so far out, because there's always going to be fluctuations that come with individuals.
And life.
So
you could have this perfect year-long training plan, even 3-month training plan. Inevitably, things are going to come up, whether it's job-wise, life-wise. So just having that blueprint and understanding that things are going to have to be adapted along the way.
Right, yeah, the coach has to be able, like, you have your idea of the direction you want to go, but you need to be able to make those changes weekly as needed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. How's your heart rate there, Ben?
You want to know?
Well, my heart rate stopped working, so.
Oh, your heart rate stopped working?
Yeah.
We might be around the same then. I'm at 105.
Oh gosh, that's low. I'm definitely not there. But I did just take in like 300 milligrams of caffeine before this. I trained the second build day, so the deadlift day. Yeah, so I'll just use
Yeah, so I mean,
use that as my crutch.
You're going to be a little bit more fatigued going into it. Heart rate's going to be more elevated. Just
I also have 40 pounds in my, well, it's probably with the pack, probably like 45-ish.
Yeah.
So a little bit heavier. That's my excuse, everybody.
I had a session.
Ben's in better shape.
Right, we said this was going to be my episode to shine from the aerobic. I mean, you show me up on deadlift every single time we do it. I had a session last week where I had to lift prior. It was pretty hard lift. And then we had a 60-minute easy run.
Yep.
And I was smoked from the lift.
Yeah.
At a truly easy effort pace, my heart rate didn't start coming down until 25 minutes into the run.
So it was elevated the whole time, then it came down.
Yeah, so it stayed at like 155, 158.
Yeah.
Once I got about 25 minutes in, it started to get back down into the 140s. But I was like, oh God, looking at it.
Yeah.
So the heart rate's interesting to look at for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited just for selfishly, my goals for the fall for hunting is to get on the trail eventually instead of this creepy abandoned parking lot that we're doing laps.
Oh yeah.
What's your go-to footwear for running?
So that's a good question.
Well, let's give you, so if you're running on the road.
So if I'm doing speed work, I like doing, right now I've been using the Saucony Endorphin Speeds, which I've been a big fan of. On my longer distance work, previously I had Brooks Ghost. Okay. So biggest recommendation though, because that's a common question we get with individuals is what shoes should I wear?
Yeah.
Well, it's very similar to gels. What gels should you take?
Yeah.
Well, what works for you?
Correct.
So if
I hate that, like in the world of strength and conditioning, we don't speak in absolutes. If we do, I don't think we really do. A lot of people speak in absolutes, like you have to do this, you have to do this, but it is frustrating in strength and conditioning because it does depend. Like different programs, well, what's the best program? Well, it depends. It's really the one that meets your intent, you can be the most compliant with, and what you buy into. Yeah. So it's the same for footwear, nutrition, whatever.
Yeah, and then when it gets back to footwear, it's, you know, if you have an individual who has ran consistently for years, has stayed relatively injury-free, my recommendation to them would be continue using the shoe that you've been using.
Well,
because it's held up for you. Or again, use the same model shoe, because you're going to get to a point where they say roughly 350 to 500 miles in a pair of shoes is when you're going to want to change out.
Unless it's those carbon fiber like Ferrari shoes.
Most people don't actually need those though. But yeah, so roughly 350 to 500 miles. Things that are going to impact that are going to be the weight of the individual, surface you're running on.
Yeah.
But if you're staying injury-free in that model, my recommendation is keep using that model.
Well, also to that point though, like, yes, get the same model, but be aware you still have to break those in. So if you are training for something in particular, like you run the risk, especially if you're a high mileage guy, and then all of a sudden you've had your pair of shoes you've been running in, they're super broken in, and then you switch to the same pair of shoes, same model. I've seen this just coaching, like people developing plantar fasciitis, things like that, even though it's the same exact shoe.
Yeah.
So just understanding that as well.
I recommend that you buy your next shoe before your other ones ran out.
Yeah.
And then you give yourself that time to break them in. So very simply, you could wear them while walking your dog, wear them around the house. Give yourself that time to break them in, as opposed to walking out of Fleet Feet, throwing them on, and then going for a 10-mile run.
Yeah, agreed. Because I've had people come to me before like, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I got plantar fasciitis. I was like, did you do anything different? No, I switched the shoes, but it's the same model and everything. Well, that could be your problem right there, is just jumping right into it. So.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of people, like, you're very good runners, you'll see have a different model for the type of run. So, and a lot of times that is to you, like if you go run 10 miles, and then again, this is for your more advanced individuals. If you go run 10 miles, you want to let that shoe decompress before you run in that shoe again. Yeah, the shoes are, again, just like the gels, it's what works for that individual. It's not going to be just because this shoe works for me.
My pace as you're talking.
Yeah, just because this shoe works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So that is part 1 of a 2-part series of our rucking conversation.
Yeah.
And then we'll, next one, we'll continue this, but we're going to switch to the trails next. So
yeah, get a little more scenery out there.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for dealing with the creepy parking lot as well.